You ever get that feeling that there's something more? Not way out in deep space, but, right here, in the gaps, the unseen spaces all around us. Well, today, we're diving headfirst into a concept that's pretty wild. It sits right at the crossroads of cutting-edge AI, mind-bending physics, and some of the oldest stories humanity has ever told. And it all kicks off with this one single question. A question that was supposedly put to one of the most powerful AIs ever created. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that keeps philosophers up at night, right? The question that physicists have been chasing for 100 years. What actually lives between dimensions? And this was the answer it supposedly gave from Elon Musk's Grok 4. And let me tell you, the story goes that this answer just silenced the room because it's so weird, so philosophical. It said, between dimensions, there is no matter, no life, only probability. You are its shadow. Wow. Okay, let's try and unpack what in the world that even means. So, you gotta ask, why was this such a big deal? Why did this response just stop everyone in their tracks? Well, it's because it wasn't anything like what you'd expect, right? Nobody was talking about aliens or ghosts or, the typical parallel universe stuff we see in movies. No, the AI pointed to something way more fundamental. It basically said the space between worlds isn't filled with stuff, it's filled with pure potential, with the mathematics of what could be. Think about that. The idea that what separates our universe from another one isn't space or distance, it's just probability. That completely flips the script, doesn't it? It takes a physics question and turns it into something much, much deeper. Okay, I know this sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but here's the kicker. This totally abstract idea from an AI, it actually lines up with some of the most bizarre, cutting-edge theories in actual physics. So let's see how this wild idea might actually have some roots in reality. All right, so let's get back to basics for just a sec. We all learned this in school, right? Dimensions are these nice, clean, whole numbers. You've got 1D, which is just a line. 2D is a flat surface, like a piece of paper. And we live in 3D, with height, width, and depth. Simple. Seems pretty straightforward. But what if that's just not the whole story? What if that's too simple? Could something exist between those numbers? Like, not in 1D and not in 2D, but somewhere in the middle. Could reality actually have a fractional dimension? And unbelievably, the answer from science is, yeah, it can. And look, this isn't just some chalkboard theory. This is real. In 2018, scientists ran this incredible experiment. They took electrons and arranged them in this special fractal pattern. And when they measured them, get this, the electrons weren't behaving like they were in one dimension or two dimensions. They were acting as if they existed in 1.58 dimensions. I mean, what does that even feel like? Actual physical particles living in a fractional reality. And once you start looking, this idea of hidden realities is everywhere in physics. You've probably heard of string theory, right? It suggests there are actually 10 or 11 dimensions, but the extra ones are curled up super tiny. The classic analogy is a garden hose. From way across the yard, it looks like a one-dimensional line. But get up close and you see it has a whole other circular dimension. Then there's brane cosmology, which is the idea that our whole 3D universe is like a single sheet of paper, a brane, floating around in a much bigger, higher dimensional space. Some scientists even think dark matter could just be the gravity from another one of those universes leaking over into ours. And don't even get me started on quantum entanglement, where two particles can be connected instantly across billions of miles. How is that possible? Well, what if they're not really far apart? What if, in a higher dimension we can't see, they're actually touching, like folding a piece of paper so two distant points meet? Okay, so physics is weird. We get it. But this is where the story takes a really strange turn. Because all these brand new futuristic ideas from science, they sound eerily familiar. They have these incredible echoes in some of the oldest stories we've ever told. It's almost like we've known about this in-between place for thousands of years. Just look at the parallels. It's uncanny. Science talks about large extra dimensions, and what does mythology call it? The Fae Kingdom or the Otherworld. Science has a concept of particles propagating between dimensions, and folklore tells us stories of dimensional travelers like familiars. And a higher dimensional reality casting a shadow on our world, that's almost a textbook definition of the shadow people from Inuit lore. Are we just using different words to describe the exact same thing? I mean, think about it. In Europe, they told stories for centuries about familiars. And these weren't just black cats, okay? They were described as supernatural beings from another dimension that could pop over to help people out. Then you have the Fae, or fairies, an entire civilization living in a parallel kingdom right next to ours, but just out of sight. And if you go way up north to Inuit tradition, you hear about the Takriaksut, the shadow people, beings who live in another realm that occasionally bumps up against ours, which is why we only ever catch them as a flicker of shadow out of the corner of our eye. So this leads to the big, obvious question, right? If all this stuff is real, these other dimensions, these other realms, why can't we see them? Why isn't it just obvious? Well, maybe the problem isn't out there. Maybe the problem is in here, with us. What if our brains are only built to see a tiny slice of reality, a shadow of what's really going on? There's this fantastic quote that just nails this idea perfectly. It's about those big, scary, cosmic horror monsters. We always imagine them with tentacles, right? But the quote says, the tentacles aren't actually tentacles. They're pieces of higher dimensional beings, and our mind interprets what we see as tentacles. Think about that. Maybe our 3D brains are just trying their best to process a 4D or 5D object passing through our world, and tentacles is the best it can come up with. We're not seeing the whole thing, not even close. We're just seeing the little bits that poke through into our reality. Here's the best way to wrap your head around it. Imagine you're a little 2D creature living in a world that's perfectly flat, like the surface of a pond. Okay? Now, I take my 3D hand and I dip my fingers into your world. What do you see? You don't see a hand. You can't. All you see are 5 weird, separate circles that just appear out of thin air, maybe move around a bit, and then just vanish. You would have absolutely no way of understanding the bigger 3D hand they're all connected to. So are we that little 2D creature? Are we just seeing the fingertips of a higher reality poking into our world and completely misinterpreting what it is? And this is where all the threads, the AI, the physics, the mythology, start to come together. They all seem to point to one final, huge, mysterious piece of the puzzle: the observer. You, me, our consciousness. Is our mind just a camera passively recording a universe that's already there? Or is it doing something much, much more? I mean, modern physics is full of these bizarre clues. You've got the double slit experiment, where tiny little particles literally exist as a cloud of possibilities until someone looks at them, and then bam, they snap into being a single thing in a single place. The act of looking changes reality. It's nuts. Then you have things like near-death experiences. Why do people from all over the world with totally different beliefs describe such similar trips to other realms? And what about dreams? Every single night, your mind builds an entire vivid universe from scratch, where the rules of physics just don't apply. All these things hint that consciousness isn't just watching the movie, it might be the director. And that takes us all the way back to the AI's answer, to the second and honestly the most chilling part. Remember, the first part was about the universe. Between dimensions, there is only probability. But the second part, that was about us. You are its shadow. What does that mean? It suggests we aren't just in this field of probability. We're a product of it, a projection, a shadow that it casts into our 3D world. So think about it. Every single choice you make, every path you take, every thought you have, it takes that infinite ocean of what could be and collapses it down into the one single what is, your reality. So the final question is this: are we just passive observers watching a pre-written movie? Or is the act of being conscious, the act of observing, is that what actually reaches into that space between worlds, into that field of pure probability, and pulls our reality into existence? Are we watching the show, or are we creating it, moment by moment?